Every country on Earth is drowning in debt. The United States, $38 trillion. The EU, $14 trillion. Japan, $9 trillion. Global debt, over $315 trillion, 3 times the size of the entire world economy. But here's the paradox no politician wants to explain. If everybody owes money, who is everyone borrowing from? This is the financial timeline, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Debt is not just a burden. It's the invisible architecture holding up the modern world. Every war, every crisis, every boom and bust rests on a structure built from promises that no one ever intends to fully repay. Because the truth is unsettling, the world doesn't owe money to someone. The world owes money to itself. But some people benefit from this loop, and some don't. To understand how we built a planet made of IOUs, we have to start where it all began. The idea of national debt wasn't born on Wall Street. It wasn't invented by economists. It was created by war. England is fighting France. The crown is out of gold. Desperate, the king turns to merchants. They agree to lend on one condition: the government must pay interest forever. To manage this new relationship, England created the Bank of England, the first central bank. That was the birth of the modern world. Government bonds, perpetual interest, tax-backed promises, the ability to spend money that doesn't exist. Yet France copied it. The Dutch perfected it. America used it to fund its revolution. Debt became power. Interest became a weapon. And the battlefield moved from land to balance sheets. Today, the system has grown into a planet-sized loop. The U.S. owes $38 trillion. Japan owes $9 trillion. Every 100 days, the world borrows another $1 trillion. And here's the twist. Most countries owe money to themselves. The U.S., for example, 2/3 of its debt is held by American banks, pensions, funds, and the Federal Reserve. Only about 2% is owed to China. The Treasury issues bonds. American institutions buy them. The Federal Reserve buys them again, creating new dollars. Americans pay taxes, which fund interest, which flows back into American retirement accounts. It's a financial mirror, a closed loop. And it's not just America, it's the whole world. Japan buys U.S. bonds. The U.S. funds Europe through the IMF. Europe funds developing nations. Developing nations lend back by storing reserves in Western bonds. Everyone owes everyone. Every promise is backed by another promise. It's a game of financial hot potato. Except the potato is the global economy. But behind government sits a quieter force. The markets, hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, central banks. They decide who can borrow cheaply and who pays a survival premium. When they lose confidence, governments fall, currencies collapse, and entire societies are real. Democracy decides who governs, markets decide who survives. And at the top sits the modern high priest of global finance, the central bank. When central banks buy government bonds, they create new money from nothing and inject it into the loop. Every dollar in existence is someone else's debt. There is no such thing as debt-free money. When confidence cracks, the whole illusion becomes visible. Greece, 2010. Bond yields spike. The IMF steps in. Austerity follows. A generation pays the price. Argentina, Sri Lanka, Lebanon. History repeats itself. When the music stops, creditors suddenly have faces. Debt is power. And when it collapses, power becomes punishment. Here's the part politicians never say out loud. Government debt is not designed to be repaid. Not now. Not ever. Governments roll over debt, refinancing old bonds with new ones. They treat debt like a subscription fee. Interest is the product. Because government bonds aren't liabilities, they're assets. Banks use them as collateral. Pension funds rely on them. Central banks treat them as money. If the U.S. actually paid off its debt, the global financial system would collapse overnight. Debt is not a flaw. Debt is the operating system. So when people say, we owe it to ourselves, that's only half true. Interest doesn't flow equally. It flows upward from taxpayers and workers to institutions, funds, and wealthy investors. Debt is not just a transfer between nations. It's a transfer between classes. Inequality rises not in spite of debt, but because of it. At the top of this global pyramid, there is no single villain, no single creditor. Not China, not Wall Street, not the IMF. It's all of them, and us. Governments issue debt. Banks multiply it. Investors trade it. Citizens depend on it. The system blurs the line between debtor and creditor until they become the same thing. Debt once meant bondage. Today, it means balance. But that balance depends on confidence, a belief the system can never afford to lose. Because when belief fades, the numbers stop mattering, and the promises stop rolling over. Then we remember the truth. Debt is a promise that can't be kept forever. If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.